You're in the water loop.
Waterloop. Hi, this is Travis with Waterloop. Water conservation is very important to me, and I bet it is to all of you. That's why I have High Sierra shower heads in my house, and I'm so happy that they're a supporter of this podcast. High Sierra carries the EPA WaterSense label for efficiency and uses 40% less water than conventional low-flow shower heads. The model I have uses just 1.5 gallons per minute. And because of their unique nozzle design, it's patented. Nobody else has it. It maximizes efficiency of water and energy and does not compromise on performance. You still get a powerful shower. Use promo code WATERLOOP for 20% off at highsierrashowerheads.com.
Waterloop.
Welcome to Waterloop. This is Travis. Excited to be joined by two guests for this episode to talk about water data and how we can move forward and do a better job on this. I have Pete Colohan. He is Executive Director of the Internet of Water Project at Duke University. Peter, thanks for coming on.
Thank you, Travis.
And I have Stacy Timmons. She is Associate Director of Hydrogeology Programs for the New Mexico Bureau of Geology and Mineral Resources, and also the project lead for New Mexico's Water Data Initiative. Stacy, thanks for coming on as well.
Thank you.
All right, let's back up big picture, and I think you both have some great perspective to add to this question. What is water data infrastructure, and why do we need it? How do we use it?
Sure. Well, I'll go ahead and start, Travis, with this. And so I'll just start with a basic problem. So let's say you're trying to irrigate a farm or treat water at a utility or understand harmful algal blooms in a lake. You need to gather information to do that. And part of the challenge that we face today as water managers and water people is that we have a difficult time accessing that data. And the reason the data is difficult to access is that it has not been modernized, broadly speaking, in the same way that, say, you can order a couch in 5 minutes and it will come straight to your house. This is less true for water data. There are many places that have a lot of investment in water data, but that are like the larger communities, larger states, larger cities. So in some places have a big investment in water data, but that's usually for a single purpose. It's usually directed towards a utility manager. And the general public or secondary users or researchers or other people just trying to make decisions, they have difficulty accessing that data. So what we're trying to do is build tools that help you discover and access water data more quickly, just using basic online search and other simple mechanisms. And our project is designed specifically to help states and utilities and local governments because they're the ones who are the stewards of most of this data. We also partner with the federal government, which is a really important actor in the system and has quite a lot of data itself. But the federal government is not responsible for water data at the state level. So it's really important that states like New Mexico are able to take advantage of the water data that they have. And in order to do that, they need sort of better technologies for that.
Gotcha. Stacy, I'd love to hear from your perspective, from the state perspective, about your description of water data infrastructure and how it's important and why you need access.
Sure. I think probably not unique to New Mexico, but many Western states are struggling in the face of increasing aridity in climate change conditions, as well as kind of more extreme conditions, whether that's extreme drought or extreme floods. And so having ready access to our water data kind of more at our fingertips is essential to be able to respond to those sorts of events and plan. And so the fact of the matter is, in New Mexico, and I think in many states, we have a lot of water data already available in some format online. So a lot of times it's like a human readable format that you can go in and query and look for a piece of information to answer your question. But if you wanted to wholesale view the water data on quantity and quality together, or if you wanted to kind of take a bigger picture look and grab a bunch of data to do some processing or do some analysis with. It's very difficult to know where to go, to know how to get those data. And oftentimes it requires that you have to call somebody up and ask for a data set to work with in any more meaningful way. And so what we're aiming to do in New Mexico and in collaboration with Internet of Water is to make our data more machine readable and more modern, as Peter said. So we can quickly access that data using the power of the internet and using the power of different codes that can just grab that data and quickly process it and make it right there at our fingertips in the face of those important decisions. So it's, I think, not unusual for states to be in this situation. We're among many who are kind of coming out of the 20th century and moving into the 21st with our data and trying to work through the infrastructure challenges, which include staff, budgets, and data systems that are really kind of old, and it's going to take a big lift to move ahead. And paper data, I would add.
Yeah, right. That's going from the 20th century of paper to the 21st century of digital. That big transition there.
It's huge.
I want to drill down a little bit on kind of the federal role. I used to work at U.S. Environmental Protection Agency in D.C. One of the biggest questions we always got from the media is like, how many of our waterways in the U.S. are healthy? How many are not? And it always was shocking that we didn't have a clear answer for that. We didn't have just this data handy that we could pull and find out about which one's impaired, how many are impaired for this, how many are impaired for that. You know, you have USGS as a big collector of water data, maybe NOAA and others. So I just want to hear about the perspective on the federal role and, you know, what they could have been, should have been, haven't been doing in collecting, organizing, sharing. And is this kind of why a venture like Internet of Water is stepping in?
Thanks, Travis. So yeah, I can comment on that. So I spent many years at NOAA, so I know a lot about this problem. And just for your benefit and everybody else's benefit, EPA actually has heard you loud and clear. They've built a new app called How's My Waterway, which tries to actually address this problem. But one of the challenges that the federal government faces is that, as I said earlier, the federal government is only responsible for the data that it collects. It's not responsible for the data collected by states. Now, there are significant numbers. What's happening is federal resources are being made available, thankfully, to help with this problem. In fact, Stacy and I are collaborating using a grant from the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation called WaterSmart, which is it's a grant program designed to improve technologies around water. So I would say that what you have at the federal level is kind of the national view and a huge number of data sets that are collected. And actually, the federal government made a big effort to improve and modernize its data management structures under President Obama in 2010, that period 2010 to 2014. And so there was a big push, although there's lots of further progress can be made at the federal level. But what I would say is that the sort of real challenge is more at the state level and more at the local level. And that's where the Internet of Water is designed to step in and help. We're designed to be technologists and social scientists that can help you understand, A, what problem are you trying to solve? B, where is the data that you need to solve that problem? C, how on earth am I going to get it? D, how are you going to be able to keep it and use it over time? We don't want to create one-off tools. The internet is sort of a graveyard of unused tools, and we're trying not to add to that problem. What we're trying to do is create technologies that are free, open source, cloud-based, and folks can use them over and over again to solve more than one problem.
I want to dig into the vision a little bit further for the Internet of Water. So, could you talk a little bit more about what you guys are building? What's your elevator pitch here, Peter?
So, I would say that in 20 years' time, you should be able to Google, "Can I swim in my river?" And you should get an answer back that is that yes or no. right? And not here's a campground near my river, like which is what you get right now. If you Google what is the condition of my river, or an irrigator in New Mexico should be able to pull up on his phone an app that shows him exactly how much water is available in the river today. That's what we need. But we're a long way from that because there's a number of connection points that have to be made from where the data are collected to how they're organized and aggregated to how they're then transferred into analytical tools for insight and then put into apps for people to use. Like that whole chain of that information value chain is what we're trying to build up. And most importantly, we're trying to reinforce the bottom part of that chain where the fundamental data is and get it really well managed so that there can be like this outburst of tools, like a green field of investment in tools, kind of like the Weather Channel. So if you think about the Weather Channel, you pick up your phone, you get the weather. Okay, the reason that's true is that NOAA is putting out all kinds of data, and there's also a big private sector investment in that space because everybody loves weather. It draws eyeballs.
Number one conversation topic in the world, right? How's the weather? Yeah,
exactly. And also, you need to know. You sort of need to know every morning what's going on with your weather, right? So people look at the weather every day. Millions, hundreds of millions of people look at the weather every day. So there's a business model there of eyeballs. There's no such business model with water data. So that's why the private sector hasn't stepped in. So we're a nonprofit that's stepping in with philanthropic dollars and also some federal money to help try to solve this problem.
Okay. And so when you mention the federal, you're in coordination with NOAA and USGS and EPA, and then also working with a variety of different states?
Yes. So the U.S. Geological Survey and the U.S. EPA are our two main partners. Okay. They serve on our board. They are the holders. They're the primary holders of water data. NOAA holds precipitation data. I worked at NOAA, and people say, why is NOAA a water agency? And I would say because NOAA is in charge of the rain, and so that but it's not actually a hydrology agency, except it's responsible for flood forecasting. So I came from the Office of Water Prediction, which is sort of the flood and hydrology modeling office of NOAA, and. Okay. And so the point is that so EPA and USGS are our main partners, and they're really, really helpful. We have great folks from the National Water Information System, from the Water Mission Area of USGS, and from the Office of Water at EPA, the data integration folks there. So they are incredibly helpful to us and very good partners. We're also just now in a dialogue with the Department of Energy around hydropower data and how that can be more well managed. We're talking to Reclamation about reservoir data. And so there's lots of good dialogue with the federal government right now on this project.
Got it. Stacy, from a state's perspective, what's your vision for where working with the Internet of Water and updating your data infrastructure can take you all, and what do you want out of this? So
in my role at the State Geologic Survey, which is known as the New Mexico Bureau of Geology and Mineral Resources, as a hydrology group, I get very regular phone calls that are asking questions about their water. So an individual landowner will say, hey, what's my aquifer, and is it safe to go ahead and put in a new well? Is there water quality concerns? Stacy, you know the answer, of course, right? And so it's become this system here in New Mexico where you literally call someone up and ask for information, and you might get a number of different answers from a number of different organizations. You also have to know which organization manages water rights, which organization does water quality, which organization does, any number of surface water or groundwater features. And so my vision, and I think the broader state of New Mexico, is looking forward to a time when we can simply, like Peter said, we can kind of throw a question in Google and quickly come up with an answer, or using a social media tool, say hashtag New Mexico water data, and find out here in my spot there is, X amount of water flowing past me in the river, or the water quality in my drinking water system is safe to drink. And just a number of questions just can be more readily answered. And we have a long list of kind of high priority questions that New Mexicans are asking. A lot of them do relate to water quantity and wanting to know that there is enough for what their intended purpose is. So I think that the general vision is to kind of allow people to readily access the information, the data that they need, and have the tools right there in their hands to make those decisions on a day-to-day basis.
I mean, what I've heard from both of you is there's a wide variety of stakeholders that you want to put this together for. All the levels of government, agriculture, industry, and citizens that have questions. I'd like to kind of shift a little bit and talk about, as a project there, as you're working with New Mexico. We were talking before we started recording about kind of the specifics, and I'd love to hear a little bit about how Internet of Water and State of New Mexico are now working together to try to build this out and make it a reality.
Sure. So I'll start with a high-level summary, and then I'll let Stacy take it away. So we're partnering with New Mexico, one, to help them with their water data initiative, which is the main initiative to pull the water data together across New Mexico agencies, and two, to help them do a collaborative project on the Pecos River, which is a demonstration about how improving the water management, the water data management allows you to improve water management. So Stacy, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah. So the kind of the bigger picture part for New Mexico is really the backbone of what we're trying to accomplish, putting together data from their 5 agencies that are listed. We have new legislation that specifically says we have to put our water data together from 5 big state agencies, and then also any other water data that is state funded. And so we're working as a kind of large effort with Internet of Water and other state agencies to put that data together. And if I can take a slight tangent, I want to go back to your point about trying to build this for normal people and technical people at the same time. And I think that's a really key piece to all of this, is that what we're trying to build is multiple kind of levels of complexity. The technical part is actually the somewhat easier part of this, where we can build machine readable data sets that wizards out there can quickly put into apps and tools that then normal people, the day-to-day users of water can use. And so going back to the point about the new project that we have starting up with Internet of Water and the Bureau of Reclamation's Water Smart Grant Program, we're working on a project in this section of the Pecos River in southeast New Mexico, where there is complex challenges looking at the river flowing through the region and groundwater as it relates to the river as well. Multiple uses of groundwater in the region and very limited readily available data sets to inform decision making, as well as complex like political pieces around this river. There are compacts that have to be met, the water delivery to Texas from New Mexico on that river, as well as irrigators in the downstream region of where we're working that need to have enough water. So there has to be really careful attention to how much groundwater is being pumped, is that affecting the river, as well as water quality issues that need to be paid attention to. So we're working with Internet of Water and some of the local entities to really bring the data in that region up to a more accessible place. It's right now in a fairly old data system that is very hard to access. So it's bringing that data up and then integrating it with other data sets, some of them federal data sets like you guys were just talking about. So USGS stream gauges, for example, can be brought together with these other groundwater data and really have a more complete picture, both on the technical side and for the normal person, the irrigator in that region who needs to know what crops to plant in a given year and how much water might be available to him.
I think that's a great tangible example of how improved water data infrastructure can assist, on the ground, if you will. Peter, are there any other examples maybe you could share of kind of your pilot projects and where you're trying to do similar stuff as in New Mexico?
Yeah, sure. And we're really trying to do a range of different kinds of projects. So in California, for example, we're working in Northern California and also really statewide on how the state monitors harmful algal blooms, which is a new-ish problem, freshwater harmful algal blooms, which threaten recreation, they threaten drinking water. Their sort of immediate problem includes people's dogs dying after they jump into the river, and this is the kind of thing that it is a growing issue. Because of warming temperatures and nutrient loading. And so the state has a harmful algal bloom monitoring system, which they really want to improve. They want to add more data to it. And what we're doing is partnering with local community groups to increase the amount of community science data that's added to the state's data, and also allowing the state to improve the way it visualizes and presents the data. So what you have is sort of improved harmful algal bloom monitoring and tracking as a result of this exercise, or you will have that when we're done with the project. In North Carolina, we're working on a water supply dashboard for utilities there, basically allowing them to keep better track of the impacts to water supply, which of course come both from availability and quality threats, availability shortages and quality threats. So looking at having a dashboard that sort of presents the water data that's most relevant to them, that's another good example. I'll just those are the top two on my head besides Stacy's project, so I'll leave it there. Yeah.
And the idea is that when you set this up in California or you set this up in North Carolina, then you've got a model that can be used in other states, right? Like, okay, hey, Nebraska wants to do the same thing with their water supply, and hey, well, just kind of plug and play almost.
Yeah, we one of the things we're learning as we're implementing this project is that we would like it to be as plug and play as possible, but there are unique challenges everywhere. Sort of all water is local, all hydrology is local, and the sort of unique problems of each location tend to rear their ugly heads as you're trying to do something. So there always is a certain amount of customization that has to happen. But we, in fact, as a project, are really focused on these underlying tools that everybody needs, kind of no matter what, to clean up the data, to make it more accessible. And we are trying to make repeatable patterns, leave behind architecture that can be also transferred to other states. And we do hope that these demonstrations will sort of give us lessons that can be transferred to other states. But in addition to the demonstrations, we have this underlying architecture, which is basically required everywhere.
Last couple questions. It's been mentioned about citizen science a few times, and I'm just curious if that factors into what you're doing in New Mexico. If some of that information gathered by NGOs and others are part of the data that you all use in water management.
Yeah. So we specifically citizen science is one of the data streams that come into New Mexico, but it's kind of coming in through one of our state agency collaborators. So one example is that the Environment Department, with their surface water monitoring, they have a program already established where they teach people how to collect certain field parameters on their surface water body near their house or wherever they are, and have a tool for them to bring that data in. And then that agency QCs does a little bit of cleanup for the data, and then that can come to us through their API tool. Presently, it isn't all, those pieces are not all connected, But yes, that's kind of on the radar. And the other kind of dream big idea that I've been playing around with here in New Mexico is just creating some basic tools that like people right now don't have a mechanism to report has their well gone dry. And kind of facing the next few years here in New Mexico, we're seeing some pretty serious drought conditions and reduction in snowpack and extremely challenging water management. A tool like that could be simple to use and not requiring a whole lot of one-on-one training with well owners, just to say, yes, my well has gone dry. And then to be able to map that out, I think would be a really relevant tool. So we're kind of brainstorming some ideas to bring those data to New Mexicans and to managers. But yeah, it's an important piece to the whole data picture. I have some, I feel it needs to have some level of QC to process before it comes out for decision making. And I think that's in the works for sure.
Yeah. The integrity of the data is critically important for sure. Lastly, Peter, you've got your hands full. You've got a lot going on with this project, building the Google of water data. But if there's other states, other agencies, other organizations, entities that are interested in this, how can they get involved?
Oh, sure. You should join our peer-to-peer network, which we have created among the states. And that's really an activity really designed for states and river basin commissions. We have individual representatives of federal agencies in the network. And also you can just join our mailing list. You can go to internetofwater.org and join our mailing list and get our newsletter. And you can start learning about all kinds of cool things. You can come to our webinars, Ask the Data Architect webinars. We have a fantastic data architect who can answer all your data guru questions. So we have many ways of engaging with states, nonprofits, and we're really happy to be in touch with anybody who's interested. Please just visit our website, internetofwater.org, and we'll go from there.
Awesome. Well, Peter and Stacy, I really appreciate it. I look forward to having the app on my phone at some point in the future where I can find out what's going on with the water anywhere I am in the country, especially when I'm visiting one of my favorite states of New Mexico. But yeah, thanks to you both so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Travis.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity.
Waterloop, waterloop, waterloop.
The Waterloop podcast is brought to you by High Sierra Showerheads, the smart and stylish way to save water, energy, and money while enjoying a powerful shower. Use promo code WATERLOOP for 20% off at highsierrashowerheads.com.
You're in the Waterloop.